Well, we continue now with our Quran, and what we are doing today. First of all, let me tell you that I do have other translations, some of them older than the ones I've just shown you, but I'm not going to go through all of those. There will be references to them off and on, but not necessary for what we're doing. Now, the one I'm using now is this one that you can see is not as small as the others, much thicker, and it is done by Maulana Muhammad Ali. Now, this person who did this was uh, prominent in his talent as a lawyer, and that's what his family wanted him to be, and he would have been very successful. But he dropped all that because of his belief that what was going on in the Muslim world with the Quran was not what it should be. They've gone way off the mark, and he wanted to get back to the pristine Quran, just what it meant and how it should be understood by the people, get back to its origins and what it meant. So that, and I have an article about him, which is quite fantastic about what he did and also where he went and so on and so forth. But that's separate. But this actually, among all of them that I have, is the main source of all that I have because of the fact that it has more in it than the others do. For example, if we go to 28, which we have been doing, if you'll notice here on this page, this is all before he even begins 28. Now, the other one I showed you before, my brand newest one called the Clear Quran, also has a narrative on top that tells you what this means. But this one goes into much more detail, much more detail. And this is the narrative called the narrative. Number 20 is called narrative, and it's about Moses. Now, also I want to tell you this, that in the Quran, no one is mentioned as often as Moses. No one at all. And he is mentioned more in the Quran and more places in the Quran than anyone else. All over the Quran. Also, Moses is considered in the Quran and by the Muslims as one of the greatest prophets of all, and that he even informed Muhammad when Muhammad had left the earth about some of the things that should be done and should not be done. They considered him one of the greatest prophets that ever lived, along with some others. So there's great respect for Moses in the Quran, as of course we have in our Bible. So that's a very common factor between the two. And you will find that when you read this especially, but that article I have about Moses in the Quran is also very interesting. So what we will do, you will notice now when we get to the actual page, it's on number 28 itself. What you will see here is the Muslim language on the right-hand side, his translation on the left, and then the notes, which are quite long underneath. In fact, this one has more notes than any of the others that I have. So when we get to 28, we will deal with some of that as we did with the other. And I will also read the notes, and I will also tell you something about it in addition to the notes that is very helpful. So we will deal with this in a moment.